kind that will never know death, and yet we're fighting to live. There is beauty in what we are.
We've ridden 10 miles and all we've seen is blood. Is this really what you want?
It's us or them.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Into the Westworld. And in case the title doesn't give it away, this is a Westworld after show where we're going to be discussing the latest episode throughout season 2 and further seasons down the road. It's just season 2 is this season airing right now. I am one of your hosts, Griffin Schiller, and I am joined by two wonderful co-hosts, Zach Pope and Tyler Tompkins. First of all, Zach, introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and yeah, I'm here to talk Westworld, talk some cowboys killing other people, and maybe some robots also killing some shit too. It's a great show, so I'm really happy to be joined by these other two great guys.
And it's great to have you on, man. It's just fantastic. All right, Tyler, introduce yourself, because you are a regular to the channel, but if you're listening to this, you probably can't see him, so you might not know who he is.
Yeah, I'm Tyler Tompkins, and I'm shocked that I was invited to do this because this show is very hard to keep up with. It's going to be a struggle, but I'm excited to talk about Westworld because it's a fun show to talk about. I mean, I think that's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, it's just one of those shows that just like, you know, episode after episode, something is just going to get you. Something's going to blow your mind. Something's going to make you think. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite show on television right now, is because nothing else is doing what this show is doing. It's not, it's like treating the audience with respect in a way, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's making them kind of like think for it, like go that extra mile in order to, you know, receive the reward at the end or something like that. But
yeah, that was the biggest thing about season 1 is that as slow as the show can be at times, the whole season, I know we were talking about this before, is that the first season, every episode built upon each other. And that's how I feel like this season is going again. It's building off the first season, but building again to a new ending for what this next season is going to be. You know, this first episode really laid out a bunch of different storylines, who our characters are going to be, and who's kind of grouped together for this season. Yeah, and that's something that you really much said, is that this is a show that makes you think at times, especially how convoluted with all the different timelines and different things.
Oh,
that's what makes Westworld a thing.
Oh, no, 100%. Well, I think the best way to start off this show, because it is the inaugural episode, let's just go across the board here and let's just give our brief 2 cents about season 1. Because I know for myself, I was a huge fan. It was a film. It was a show that week after week I would look forward to watching because I was just I was so invested in it. I haven't felt this way about a show in quite some time, to be quite honest with you. So just real quick, what are your guys' thoughts on season 1 and how excited were you looking forward to season 2, knowing that it essentially skipped a year? I mean, it's almost been like a year and a half since the first season. It's kind of hard to believe. But Tyler, what did you think of season 1?
Okay, what I'm about to say, I don't want it to come across as though I hate the show, because I really do like Westworld. I really do. But I did like it a lot. I loved watching it from week to week. But at times I did feel that it could get a bit exhaustive watching it because it's an incredibly complex show. Like, I did not expect the show to be as complex as it was whenever I first started watching it. But it was fun to watch, and it was fun to read theories on the internet, which again is why I think this show is so successful in the first place. It creates conversation. And again, I mean, dude, if I don't know about y'all, but I remember going on like Reddit and a couple of other websites looking at the different theories about the first season, and I just got lost in that. I mean, I got lost in that. It was so confusing.
Got lost in the sauce, man. Lost in the sauce.
Yeah. But overall, it was still really cool. I like a lot of these characters. Dolores, of course, and Teddy, played by James Marsden. I really like him.
Yeah, he's an underrated character, I think.
He's very underrated.
I'm glad to see him back in here, especially after X-Men.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I hope to see more of him in season 2, because I did expect him to be in it a bit more from season 1, but you know, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, overall, I like season 1 a lot. It was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zach, I know you kind of alluded to it, but you were a fan of the first season. I think all of us could say we were fans of the first season. Yeah. It's just kind of how it hit us on different levels.
Yeah, no, the first season was something special. So like my dad told me that like it sucked. Like he was like, this show sucks. He's like, I don't like it. I don't
Wow.
get it. And I was like, really? Like I heard it's good. So like I put off watching it for like the longest time. And then I thought it was coming back last year. So I was like, hey, I'll just start it now and see how it is. And then I finished it. I'm like, oh yay, season 2 is probably starting soon. And I find out it's like a year later. But I ended up loving the show. Every twist and turn, I wasn't spoiled at all. And it was nice to just really watch them back to back to back, not have to wait week to week, which is nice. But really, yeah, I overall love the whole concept and all the twists and stuff. I think the Bernard twist in season 1 is the thing that really hooked me in.
Oh my God.
And once it starts bringing in more of the concepts of like how these hosts have like actual concepts and can actually think and feel, that's when I got into it. I think the whole Maeve storyline, like all of that just brought me together, and just I love this kind of sci-fi type of stuff.
Oh,
it kind of raises that like important question, like what does it mean to be human? And it just kind of like messes with you. You're like, well, geez, I don't know. I mean, because
right, which is one of the reasons why. I'll let you finish real quick, but that's one of the reasons why Maeve is such an interesting character, because she looks human, acts human, thinks as if a human would. She's got that emotional connection to her daughter, which we see is playing a part in season. Sandy Newton blew
me
my
favorite character.
Yeah, really?
Great. She's my favorite. Yeah.
Wow.
Her and Tessa Thompson are my favorite. Maybe that's just because I'm partial to Tessa Thompson, but she's looking like she's going to be a better character in season 2 than she was in season 1. Yeah, she got introduced in season 1. I feel like in this episode it really built up that there's going to be more to her. I'm a little worried though, knowing that in the different timelines she's kind of in the past one. So
what happened to her?
With her? Yeah.
What happened to her? Well, and that's the perfect segue into season 2, episode number 1, which I believe is titled Journey into Something.
And Journey into Night.
Yes, Journey into Night. Yes, there we go. Thank you. That's why we have you on the show, Zach, because I'm going to mess up all over the place with this stuff.
I have it up on my screen right here just to make sure.
And I did have it up on my screen. I can assure you all, you can't see my screen, but I did have it up on my screen. I just lost it. So anyways, yes. So the season 2, it opens up and we have this conversation between Dolores and Arnold, not Bernard. It is Arnold. So we know that this is taking place in the past. And the first thing that I think came to all of our minds was, wow, they really put a lot more money into this show. Because the camera, like, it was slick. It was like cinematic. The show was already cinematic with, the black bars and such. It just, everything made that interaction really cinematic. And I think they're going to call back to that maybe a little bit down the road or something like that. So I'm really curious as to that, how that happened. But you hear Arnold talking with Dolores, and we're seeing how Arnold is starting to become a little bit afraid of Dolores. He knows what she's capable of. She just doesn't know to what capacity she is capable of herself. But Arnold sees a little bit of darkness in her, and so it's so fascinating. It's one of the reasons why Dolores is a rich character. But I loved that opening. I don't know about you guys, but
no, I loved it. I think it was a great way to get us back into it. I like how Westworld doesn't just do that typical approach to just pull it off right when she shot Anthony Hopkins in the back of the head. I'm glad it didn't just go from right there. It actually went in something different. And the way that like their conversation went about is something that we see later down in the episode. How we see Dolores is, she has that split personality. She's doing what she wants. And plus we also see Bernard waking up on a beach, which is what they talked about, which is a great, nice thing to kind of point into and then make the audience think a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Dolores to me was kind of the most fascinating character of this episode, just because I have no idea what they're going to do with her. I'm very curious to see how her character plays out, because she didn't, or at least to me, it didn't feel like she got the most screen time out of everyone else. She was just kind of off doing
in the first episode, right?
Yeah, in the first episode of season 2. So I don't know, but I did like the opening with Bernard and everything.
Yeah.
With the flashbacks.
Bernard's such a fascinating character.
But Bernard is my favorite character in the entire show, because there's just like, even when you think he's playing out one way, something else happens, and we find out another layer to his character that makes us even more fascinated by what's going to happen next. And I guess that's a perfect segue into like the beach, the opening where we see him washed up on this beach. Everything's in disarray. He's in disarray. The audience is very much in his shoes in that moment. And I liked how they played that whole thing out.
He's like a surrogate almost, kind of like they're going to use him, which I kind of like because from the first, he wasn't really like that.
No, not at all. I mean, he was definitely in a position of power, and then we find out later on that he's a host. But yeah, that whole part where he's walking along the beach and we see these the
Delos.
Yes, thank you. They're like shooting the host that they see there because obviously the IP in their heads is important and whatnot, and it makes you wonder, at that moment in the episode, we're definitely like, was this the next logical thing that happened, or is this Westworld doing its time travel, not time travel, but timeline thing again? And I think it was pretty evident that this was in the future and not necessarily, But
and from what we find out, like I was talking about before, is that this is apparently 2 weeks after whatever events had happened. We got three timelines again going about, and who knows how many other timelines they'll throw into here, but it really seems like we have one that takes place the night of, the day after, and 2 weeks later, which kind of adds to a great thing. I like how a lot of those kind of tie in. I wonder what things are going to tie in again. The biggest reach out to that was you finding out William becomes the Man in Black in the first season. So I really like that whole timeline aspect. It makes you wonder. I like it. It's very difficult for shows to do that, but when shows pull it off right, it's right and it's perfect.
Yeah, they really do a good job of balancing the multiple timelines in this show.
Yeah, I'm so scared to get comfortable with these timelines right now because I have a feeling like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to go so like deeper down the rabbit hole, and there's going to be so many more like different timelines, and just get so much more complex than it already is. So.
Well, we'll get to that in the preview section. Because we definitely in that preview for what's to come in season 2, we definitely see them going back in time, where we see Jimmy Simpson, who played young Ed Harris in the show in the first season. So we obviously know we're going back in that direction and stuff like that, but we'll touch on that a little bit later on. But yeah, it was interesting because the episode really did just pick up at the next logical progression point in the story, aside from that Bernard on the beach hole sequence, and we see them hack into one of the host's brains, and we see that Dolores is off just like killing everyone. She's on a rampage.
Badass, man. Danny's kind of like, damn, who is this girl?
Right. yeah. The thing, and you alluded to it already, Zach. The thing that I love about Dolores in this episode is that monologue scene where she has the board members or some of the guests. I forget, but she has them all like on nooses, and she's talking to them about like both sides of her personality. There's the one side that is that like that farm girl, that sweet farm girl who's going to welcome you in and whatnot, but then on the other side we've got the Wyatt character, who's very much like he's an outlaw. He's going to kill everyone. He's a loose cannon, or I guess she's a loose cannon. And so seeing those two sides to her character, I'm really curious as to how they're going to play on that moving forward. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's going to come into play a lot this season.
No, I do see that coming into play a lot. I think we're going to get a lot more of her split personalities. And who knows, maybe she does have another personality that they programmed into her that could just pop out. We don't know. Because obviously Westworld's been around for a lot, and they've tinkered around a lot with these characters. You look at Maeve from season 1, when you flash back that she had a completely different past, and now she's a whore. But it's really cool to see what they go and do with these different characters, because you can easily just pronounce them into it. And I'm gonna assume, we're talking about where Maeve's, she wants to find her daughter, or if her daughter is actually real. Right. I have a feeling her daughter is going to be in that Shogun, the samurai.
Yes,
we're going to
completely agree. Yeah,
I think that's where I talk about probably the most interesting thing to me, which is such a small detail, but is that Bengal tiger. When you see that, that's just a hint of what they're showing for the samurai. They're just teasing us a bit more, and we all know that we're getting it later this season, but it's going to be cool to see like how fascinating this world is, and the fact that it's part 6. So that means, Westworld's one park, that's one park. What other worlds do they have?
Right.
That's the big thing. There's so many things about that you can just bring more into this world. And I can't wait to see, this is just going to be one part. of this show, and there's going to be other seasons down the road that's going to show this.
Right. Well, that's going to be my next question for both of you is how many worlds do you think we're going to see in this season? Obviously, we've been teased about the Shogun world, but do you think that's the only one? Is it just going to be that in Westworld, or are we going to get maybe some other world that we have no idea what is coming?
I'm thinking probably the Shogun world. I think it's going to revolve, around that a lot. But I think there's a ton of other worlds. I think there's a ton.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll probably tease at the end of the season or something. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. That's the thing with the show. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like the show's mostly going to still take place in Westworld, but they're going to give depths to Shogun's world. But I think in the end of the day, they'll probably end up hinting at more, because I remember reading that besides doing the Shogun world, they were actually planning on doing like a Romans time world instead.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling. Yeah. I mean, it's probably in there already. I mean, you really look at.
I thought I saw a little bit of that in the upcoming season part where it was where William, the Man in Black, he was like walking through something. I think he was still in Westworld, but there was some of it that looked like it could be Roman.
And it could be. I mean, that's the best thing about the show. Like Tyler was saying, we don't know. I mean, it really goes to the writer's credits. I mean, when you have one of the Nolan brothers working on this, do you really expect anything else?
Yeah, this is complete.
I mean,
Nolan,
they took an extra year to really work on this whole show, and it really pays off, not just in production value, but the way that the stories are already making you think. And when you're in that disarray, because a lot of us, like you said in the beginning, a lot of us feel like Bernard when he wakes up. When we're going through all these different characters, it's like, yeah, you feel like Bernard because you don't know where everyone's at because it's been such a long time. I feel like that was a good way to put it, is because HBO was like, hey, this is going to be premiere later on. The writers were like, well, hey, we can tinker with this, kind of put him in Bernard's shoes. And one of my favorite scenes in this whole episode was when Bernard and Tessa Thompson's character go down into that little whatever base, and you see those
out of nowhere.
You see those drones. You see those drones that they kind of look like the Prometheus guys.
Right. Yeah, we're getting.
That was so interesting. I want to know more about those guys. That was one of the most fascinating parts about this, and especially what Bernard does to himself.
Well, that's the thing. Because at the end of season 1, not the last episode, but the episode before, we see that Ford makes him shoot himself. And so clearly, I think as a result, he's having like cognitive issues. Like this is going to be a reoccurring problem for him. And so I think using that as the crux for the timeline jumps in this show is brilliant. It already makes way more sense than the time jumps in season 1. I feel like they've actually kind of improved upon that a little bit more. It's not so much just like guessing as to whether or not as to what timeline we're in. They're kind of pointing us in a direction, not giving us all the answers, but at least giving us a direction. And it's through Bernard and that stuff like that. But yeah, he injects that he injects that like brain fluid from the other host into his head. At least that's what I thought he was doing. It could have been a sedative. I really have no idea. It was just kind of like a brief moment there, but clearly, I mean, and then we see like the fluid dripping from his ear. So he is definitely having issues, and he's hiding it from Tessa Thompson because she doesn't know. She doesn't know he's a host. So I think that's definitely going to come into play later down the road. There's going to be a very important encounter between the two, and ultimately Tessa Thompson probably will have to decide whether she's going to trust him or whether oh, you're a host, we got to get rid of you, we can't have this, it doesn't matter who it is. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out.
Think she's going to find out about him sooner than later, or later? I
don't know. That's the thing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's they're paired off together. So it only makes sense that he can only hide that issue for so long. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think she'll find out sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
I think here within the next couple of episodes. But I really like the flashbacks too, man. He was having like that whole sequence and everything where he's like kind of struggling with that. Because I mean, we don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. We don't know if a lot of those are real, right?
Well, that's a good point, because I mean,
because is that like kind of like Maeve with the daughter, where it's like it could possibly just be pre-installed consciousness, or did it actually happen? Because that's, while I was watching, I was like, this is cool, but who knows what this is? I mean, this could be that's literally nothing.
That's
like Lee says that. Like Lee's like, we program we program that into you. So like she might not even have a daughter at all. There might be no robot daughter. This might just be like you know, like Lee's just like kind of suckering to live. That's all he's trying to do. I mean, he stripped down right in front of her, which was a great thing because you know it's like that's what they made them do. So it's kind of like she wants them to do it to her.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Well, you know, the other thing I kind of liked about this episode, it's actually very topical and relevant, is the strong female presence that was felt here. We've got Dolores, who's clearly just like had enough, and she's like out on a killing rampage. We've got Maeve, who's taking control. She's humiliating one of her creators, which is kind of funny because she was basically naked for the entirety of season 1 and used, so it only makes sense. And then we got Tessa Thompson doing her stuff, and so like I remember Tessa Thompson saying something, you know, before the season came out that the female characters are here to play, and it really showed in this episode. Not maybe like in your face kind of way, but in a way that made sense because of the way their characters were treated and used in the first season. So it's kind of like everything's coming not full circle, but it's just like, you know, you reap what you sow kind of thing. Yeah,
and I'm glad it feels it doesn't feel forced or anything like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I enjoyed it. And like I said, I love the whole Maeve sequence. Well, she's my favorite character, but I really liked how that played out. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And Dolores, of course, was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's jump into that. Let's jump into the Maeve arc because we really haven't talked about that too much. That literally picks up right where it left off at the end of season 1. Yep. Same day, same everything. She decided not to board the train because she had the flashbacks of her daughter at the end of season 1. So she's on a mission to go find her. Tyler, I'll let you take the floor on this one first. Just give me your overall thoughts of that section of the story. What kind of stuff did you like, didn't like? How were you feeling?
Yeah. I mean, Zach, or I believe it was Zach, kind of answered. It was kind of cool seeing, you know, things kind of flip around where she was making, you know, the dude strip. I love that part. That was a great part. Yeah. And again, just kind of going back to similar to Bernard, her whole backstory is very fascinating to me because I want to know if it's real. Mm-hmm. Like it just that whole thing. And I don't know. I thought
she's a badass, man. I mean, with that gun and like the way she plays it off. Yeah. And that's the thing I really do appreciate about this opening season is that as slow as the first season was, it was a very nice slow burn. I feel like this season is going to be way more fast paced with a little bit more action because you felt it in this first episode. I mean, my dad watched the second season with me because I was telling him, I was like, no, it's going to be better. You're going to enjoy it. And he actually told me, he's like, honestly, he's like season 2. He's like, I enjoyed this so much more than the season 1. He's like, already I can tell I'm going to like the season more. And I don't know if it's just like the way that the storylines are going and stuff, but I overall just like just what they're doing with, especially with Maeve's character. She is such an interesting character that
she really is.
Come back to bringing that up. I do want to bring one other thing up with you. Do you remember that in the first season, like the girl that when you boarded the train and William's talking to her, she's the blonde girl?
Yeah.
Did you notice that she was in this episode?
Yeah, she was in the end of season 1 as well. She's one of the people in Wyatt's crew, or I'm sorry, Dolores'
I love that. Yeah. I didn't notice that till the end. I was like, oh damn, that's where she's from. She's badass too. Like these people are all revolting, and I love seeing AI revolt. I mean, if it happened in real life, I would probably be scared. But
we all shit our pants.
In the show, it's great. I'm kind of rooting for them.
Well, no, it is, and that's the reason why is because, you know, we see what they've gone through. You know, how, you know, the humans have just come into the park, used them, how the creators have used them, how they always aren't, you know, treated with respect. They're killed on like a daily basis. Obviously, you poke the bear enough times, something is going to happen, especially with people of this intelligence. And so, just seeing them revolt and seeing where things are going to go, you're kind of rooting for them because for the most part, the people are like shitty, you know, human beings, except for the Hemsworth brother.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone else is a pretty shitty person. Right. I mean, we can talk about the Man in Black and how cool he is, but he's a shitty person. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely, not a great guy. One of my favorite characters.
It's open season for him right now. Like, when he's like, hey, it's a real game now.
Right. Well, a perfect segue into his little. He didn't get a lot of screen time in this episode, but what we did get.
It's cool seeing him talk to that kid, man.
Yeah,
which is Anthony Ford.
So here's the thing: is Ford really dead?
That's what I was thinking.
Ford going to be able to transfer his consciousness into his, these other things? We saw at the end, or I'm sorry, we saw in season 1 that there was another host's body that was being designed in the basement of Ford's old house. Where Bernard killed what's her face? I forget. The woman. One. Yeah, the woman in charge.
Yeah,
of
the bitch. We'll just say that because they're all bitches pretty much.
You're not wrong. Where you killed her. So we saw the body being made there. So are we going to see Anthony Hopkins come back maybe later down the road this season?
I think so. I just, you get Anthony Hopkins, and I mean, the guy hasn't really done much in the past few years. He was in Transformers, but really, we gonna the dude. I mean, when you saw him last season, for me, that was like the best acting I've seen from him in so long. He looked like he was having so much fun, and of course, I know Tyler probably wants to.
Yeah, we're bring it up, man. Bring it up.
Oh my God,
he's coming back. Did you see what he did on Twitter? He's probably already in there. We just don't know it.
That's what the thing is, that that they're gonna bring him back in some way, not in just flashbacks, but he's alive. Like they're gonna do some cool stunt that maybe if it's not even him, and maybe another big known actor that could take on that role, like that would be a cool little thing.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
So
do you think that the body that we saw with the maggots in his eye, do you think that's his real body, or do you think that that's a host body that he made for himself?
I don't
probably a host body.
Yeah.
See, I think that actually was his real body. I do think that was him, but I think that we're gonna see a host version of him later down the road.
Oh yeah, okay,
probably.
That's a good call. Yeah.
I'd be surprised. I mean, when you heard the kid talking, you could hear his actual voice. I don't know if it was just me, but I could hear. It felt like you can hear some of his actual Anthony Hopkins' actual voice, kind of like going through with it.
Yeah,
that's where I kind of got that thought. I was like, is he still alive? And I don't know, maybe he's like Ultron. Can he like switch bodies and stuff?
Like his consciousness or something. Like his consciousness or something.
Like, what are we doing? I mean, who knows though? Like, that's the best thing about the show is that they're so good with like the scientific stuff that I would believe almost anything they do in the show.
Oh no, I
and you know they'll explain it in a good capacity because they're gonna spend 10 minutes with that nice score in the background talking about how this is going and what's going on when he's probably gonna be explaining it to Bernard when Bernard's shocked that he's still alive.
Right.
Down the season.
Yeah. No, that was the one that I loved that encounter between William and young Ford there because I think it's just like I feel like because I mean in that discussion you see that Ford is like, well, you're in my game now. You already got to the center of the maze. You realize like what could happen. Now we're going to take it up a notch. You're going to get more than you bargained for, and you're going to have to play my game. So I feel like Ford is going to be this figure that is tormenting William throughout the entirety of this season. He's maybe
I
not
like that it's his
but just
game
playing.
now. Like I like that game thing. Like that like when he made that statement, I was like, that is very true. Like he pretty much is designing because we always wondered last season, what is Ford doing? Like what is he making? Like what is he changing? And obviously this is part of his plan.
Right.
Yeah, what if he's alive in the real world and the real world in Westworld is another world?
Tyler, there's so many worlds, man.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, dude. I don't know.
This has just become Inception. Just because a Nolan brother is attached doesn't mean that it has to be Inception.
Hey, maybe it's gonna be like a cinematic universe on this thing. I mean, Dark Universe couldn't do it, and the DCU is kind of failing on that part because I know Griffin loves Elton John and all of them over there, or not Elton John.
Elton John?
Boingo.
You mean Danny Elfman?
Danny we don't talk about Danny Elfman.
No, we don't talk about Danny Elfman's Justice League score. How dare you bring up Justice League on a Westworld podcast? That's just like an insult.
We're talking about cinematic universes pretty much, though.
Yeah, right.
Because we know Leonardo DiCaprio is probably going to show up at the end of the season as the next.
That'd be crazy, man. That would be crazy.
God, I hope some just like big surprise happens as far as like just an actor showing up. That'd be
That's what I'm saying.
So
like
cool.
if that other body, if it shows up to be like a big known actor, that would be such a surprise. Like if by the end of the season. Like that would be such a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I would see him doing it though. I see him doing it.
It's possible. Is definitely possible. But going back to the episode at hand here, so we have all, I think we touched on the major points, but the one thing that it leaves us with is when Bernard and the rest of the crew that he's with in the 2 weeks later portion, he's still very disillusioned, and we get down to the they're looking out at this like sea. There's like a sea in Westworld that no one knew existed, and they're seeing this just like sea full of hosts in there. And then we get down to the bottom, and Bernard was like, "I did this." So clearly, we know that something big happened. Yeah, in between, right, which is kind of interesting because he's very disillusioned in that timeline for most of it. But then we get to that part, and he's like, "Oh no, this was me. I did this." So I wonder, not I wonder, but we're definitely going to see what happened.
Was that Teddy in the water at the?
Yes. They kept focusing on him. I couldn't make out who it was. Was it Teddy?
It looked like Teddy. It looked like Teddy.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, okay. And I don't know why they would put a close up on him.
Did you recognize how this episode had a lot more water in it? Like water was a huge thing in this episode. Like a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the scenery.
I think we're going to get a water world, guys.
Kevin Costner
is going to be a host.
He'll be the guy. The next Anthony Hopkins. I'm okay with it.
That would be a great thing to see.
I'm okay with it.
I
think people wanted a sequel to that. Well, some people did, but
there's your sequel, guys. It's going to be it's actually the backdoor pilot to a Waterworld standalone show in Westworld.
So awesome.
Can I just say that, like, people want spin-offs for Game of Thrones, but when Westworld's done, if the show's as like popular, not as popular, but just popular in general, for damn well they're going to spin off every different world. And
absolutely. I mean, depending on how this plays out, obviously the company could go bankrupt, and just like all of the hosts could like take control of the world, and then you really couldn't do.
Disney will just buy them out. It'll be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. So I guess, we touched on all the major points here. I just feel like, there's so much more I want to talk about, but it really is all just speculation from there, which we'll save for another episode, which will be our preview episode that will drop on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are going to be, Mondays we will have our recap of the episode we just watched, and then Wednesdays we will drop our preview episode where it's primarily just going to be speculation for what we're going to see in the week's upcoming episode. So just to close this out, guys, give me your final thoughts on the episode, starting with Zach.
So overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I didn't think it was like an amazing episode, nothing to blow my mind, but that's really how the first season started, and that's what I really much said. So I'm curious to see what they do with each and every one of these characters. I like all the timelines they placed out. I was glad to see Stubbs lived. That was pretty cool. I was shocked that he was alive. I thought he died.
Honestly, it was great.
Yeah, I'm wondering who else might have died now. But overall, I really like it. All my favorite characters are back. They're all in cool positions. Dolores is this bloodthirsty killer now, and that's awesome to see. Maeve is the badass, and really I just like this female empowerment because those were the best characters in season 1, and I'm glad to see them getting more screen time. And of course, like it just was a really good start, and I'm really happy with the start of the season. I cannot wait for next week.
Yeah, no, I beautiful. Well said, Zach. Well said. Let's all give him a round of applause. All right, Tyler, closing thoughts.
It's gonna be hard to top that. It was nothing mind blowing or anything, but I did enjoy it much more than I thought I would, and I like the direction this season seems to be going. It seems like it's going to be different from season 1, and that this season is going to be much more focused on character instead of plot. Hopefully. I'm hoping, because I felt like I knew the characters a little bit. I felt close to the characters in this episode. I'm just hoping that it doesn't turn into like a Ryan Johnson thing, and it's like, oh, so you think it's going to go this way? Nope, it's going to go this way.
Yeah, as long as the show that could very easily be pretentious, and at some points it may very well be pretentious, as long as it doesn't get overly, like like screw you in your face.
Yeah. I hope we don't find out Bernard's father is Luke Skywalker, but
God,
I would
riots.
like that.
I can hear the riots already. For myself, I agree with you guys. Yeah, no, I don't think we were expecting them to just blow like the gates off the place. The very first episode of season 2. It was perfect because it was just the next logical story point in this, conglomerate of timelines that is Westworld. I really did enjoy the characters. I felt it to have a brisker pace than a lot of last season, which, I liked the pacing of the first season. It was very methodical, very thought-provoking. This one, there's more stakes involved. Obviously, there's more action in it, so I felt like the pacing was perfect. I loved the timeline. I'm sorry, not the timelines. The arcs that they've set up. We have a good idea of where this season is heading. I think. Well, we think we know.
Maybe
Right. We think we know. We really have no idea. They've spent 1.5 years making this season, so we probably have no clue. But really like what they're doing with Bernard's character. He is still by far my favorite character. I'm really curious as to what's going to happen with him and really just the rest of the characters. Everything is great here. It's looking like it's going to be a promising season, and this was a great way to kick it all off. So I'm excited. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it, guys, for the first episode of Into the Westworld. Be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section of wherever you're watching or listening to this, because we do have a video version and an audio version on iTunes. Shoot us all your theories, all your speculation. Did you like the episode? Did you think this was a weak episode? Does Westworld suck? Let us know in the comment section below. We will probably fight you on that one. My beautiful co-hosts here. Yes, you two great people. Can you let everyone know where we can find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll go first. I'm Tyler. Once again, you can find me on YouTube if you just search Tyler Tompkins, and Twitter, Instagram, all the social media stuff. You can search my name. I should be the first one that pops up.
Should be. May not be, but he should be.
Yes, and I'm also excited for that Waterworld spinoff. I'm very excited.
Kevin Costner is showing up, dude. He's showing up. Yeah.
No, and you guys can find me at Zach Pope on YouTube and pretty much on all social media links. It's the same Twitter. It's at Pope the King. Don't ask why. My friend made it for me. So whatever. But yeah, no, I'm all looking forward to this Inception kind of cinematic universe we're getting with Elton John and Danny Elfman and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be great.
This is just like what I don't even know what kind of cinematic universe this is, but I don't want.
Hey, it's Westworld. Anything can happen. But overall, really like this episode, and I can't wait to talk with you guys more about Westworld. This was a great start to this whole season.
Yeah, this is the only beginning, guys. We're just getting started. We're very excited about this. So if you did enjoy this episode, please do leave a rating and a review on iTunes or iHeartRadio if you have an Android, or probably Spotify now. I have no idea. This podcast is available basically anywhere you can check out podcasts, download them. Audible, maybe who knows? Maybe. We'll see. But please do head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. That really does help us out. The most helps us get the show noticed, and your feedback is always important to us. So you can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook, which is my channel where I do the movie review, where I do movie reviews, movie related content, all that good stuff. That is the channel that puts on this podcast. So if you're a fan of that sort of stuff, you can go check out Men vs. Movies on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all by searching Men vs. Movies, all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, something that isn't Westworld, go check that out. And if you like me, guys, if you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. Well, that's going to do it for this first episode of Into the Westworld, and we'll catch you on Wednesday for our speculations of the upcoming episode. So until then, take care.